So welcome back to this second video. This video we are going to do actually an exercise when we calculate the forward rate of an exchange rate. I think maybe in the camera I will be looking to the other side because I have two screens now. I'm using the desktop instead of the laptop. But well, I think the important thing is the Excel and not really my face. So let's begin this exercise. I will go step by step, and I would also like to focus on how this problem is written because maybe it cannot be so easy to understand. So I will go step by step. And also I have in here the formula that I gave you from the presentation. So as usual, I encourage you to take notes of the formulas that we are going to use. Of course, in the exam you can use all your notes, so it's a good idea to keep track of what we are learning. So let's see what is the question of this problem. What do we need to calculate? It says that assuming a spot rate of Swiss francs 1.48 over dollar, so that means for $1 I need to pay 1.48 Swiss francs. And then later it says a 90-day Euro Swiss franc deposit rate of 4% per annum. What does that mean? It can be quite confusing. First, this is the rate, the deposit rate. It's the interest rate of the Swiss franc. Do you remember that in the last video I told you that we are going to use the nominal interest rate? Well, this is the nominal interest rate in real life, this one. Uh, it might be confusing because I think here it says the euro Swiss franc. So why is the word euro in there? Well, the answer is because you remember when I told you about the LIBOR, the London Interbank Offer Rate. I think we saw that on the first partial. And I told you that that is always the benchmark. We always compare anything to the LIBOR. Where the Euro Swiss, is another word to call to the LIBOR, right? So the LIBOR for the Swiss franc is also the Euro Swiss franc deposit rate. It's the same. It's just another way to call to the LIBOR for Switzerland. And it has a maturity of 90 days. That means that instead of 180, as in here, as in the formula, we will be using 90. So I can start writing that in here. Maybe I already know the spot of today, that is 1.48. And this is Swiss francs over dollar. Then I also know the time. The time, it will be 90 days. So I just need to be careful because I think when I copied this from the presentation, I had 180, but this 180 doesn't mean that it will always be 180. This means time, right? And then what else do I know? So far, I also know that the interest rate for Switzerland, for the Swiss francs, it's 4%. And I forgot to clarify something. Why does it say per annum? Because that is the annual rate. It's also another weird word to call annual rates, but per annum, that means like per year, por año. And you don't have to worry about the period of time that we are using, because for this course, I will always give you the rate that fits to your time, right? So we are calculating the forward in 90 days, and I will give you the the annual rate, but that capitalizes every 90 days. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. So capitalization is always on the time that we are calculating the forward. That is something that I am giving you in this course, because this course is not so deep into math. This is more about concepts. Maybe if you take derivatives, the other course that's similar to this one, I think maybe you will have to deal with different capitalization periods in rates. So finally, the last part of the problem, it says, and a 90-day euro dollar deposit rate of 8%. So what does this mean? This means that the interest rate for the dollar or the US, it's 8% per annum. It will always be annual. You don't have to worry about this. I won't trick you with this. I will always give you the right rate. And finally, again, it says what is the 90-day forward rate? As I told you, also this is something good about this course, that I will always give you the right rate for the time that you are calculating the forward. So I already say that time at day 20. So what are we calculating? We are calculating the forward at day 90. That is what we are doing in here. So we are trying to calculate the price of the forward at day 90. So we are going to use this formula to calculate this. Again, I think it's very simple, but you have to be very careful on how do you solve this. So if you see this formula, what will you do first? You need to go step by step, and first you need to solve the first parenthesis. So I think the wisest thing to do is maybe to divide the time over 360, and remember, it will always be 360. Why always 360? There are two reasons for why 360. First reason, it says that although the year is 365 days per year, usually, and every 4 years we have one extra day, it says that around the world there are different holidays, and on average, each country has around 5 holidays. That means 365 minus 5, that's 360. That's why people usually use 360. And the other reason why 360 is simply because it's easier to calculate that, right? Like you can divide 360 over 2 or over 4 if you want to calculate a quarter, or you can even divide it by 12 if you want to calculate 1 month, and that would be 30 days. It's simpler if we use 360. So we usually, or in finance, it's very common that you use 360 to calculate, because of the first reason that we have 5 holidays on average in the world, or because it's simpler. I think it's better because it's simpler, because there are countries like France that they have like maybe, I don't know, 12 holidays, and others like who doesn't have that many holidays, Germany maybe, and maybe they have 3 or 4. So let's go and let's solve this. And I think it's also important for you because maybe you can follow the order that I'm using in here. So the first step is to do this division, time over 360. So what's time in this problem? 90, and it will be divided over 360. By doing this, I am solving this part, right? And I will do the same, solving the part at the bottom, 90 over 360. The next step will be to multiply whatever I have in here times the interest rate of the home country. In this case, home country is always the one on the top, right? That's something that maybe you remember from the last class. So if the rate that I will use in here, it will be the rate of the country that I have on the top in my in my exchange rate. So I have Swiss francs on top and then dollars at the bottom. That means that I will have to use the Swiss franc rate on top. It's very logical, I think. Like if you have the exchange rate with Swiss francs on top, in the formula, use the interest rate of Swiss francs because they are on top. Don't mix them. Be careful because I know it seems silly at this point, but it can be confusing when you are doing the homework or activities. So for Switzerland, it's 4%. So multiply that times the whatever you got from the division, and then do the same thing for the US times this. Okay, so we already did this and we already did this. We need only to add 1, right? That's what it says in here. Add 1. 1 plus whatever this is. So just add 1, and again in here, add 1. We are almost there. The next step will be to divide the top part over the bottom part. So it will be something like this over this. And finally, very last step, just multiply whatever you get from all of this, which is this 0.99, times the spot rate. So spot rate times whatever I get from there, it will be this. 1.4654 Swiss francs over dollar. It's not difficult at all. You only have to be careful, follow this step by step. And as I promised from the last video, I want to highlight the differences between the forward rate and the relative PPP formula that we learned before. So in the forward formula, maybe the first difference is that we use the nominal interest rate instead of the inflation rate. Because on the relative PPP, we use inflation rate. Then in this one, we use time in days instead of time in years. Remember, in the other one, we used time in years. And difference number three is that we use simple capitalization or simple interest instead of compound interest, which is what we used in the relative PPP formula. That's why we had the exponent. So I think that so far we are okay with this. I think it's not difficult at all. I think it's only a matter of explaining what does all these words mean, what does this formula mean, how can you do the calculations. Be very careful when you do your activity, your homework, and especially the exam. So I will stop in here, and in the next video, we are going to practice and we're going to learn a new and very exciting arbitration strategy.